Hello everyone, welcome back. So today what we'll be trying to do is reproduce this sketch, which I have on the right here. So let me go on the whiteboard and explain it. We might make some changes for the aesthetics of it, but pretty much we'll be keeping the same as what we currently are seeing right now. So let me refresh a couple of times so you can see different results. But this is what we'll be doing. So let me go on the whiteboard and explain it right away. Hopefully you can see. Let me move this a little bit back and tilt this up a little bit. Okay, wait. There you go. Well, okay, that's fine enough. Good enough. Okay, so what we have right now is basically a sine function, right? So we have a sine function, right? Which goes something like this. Let's say this is the 0, 0, 0 y equal 0, right? And this would be y equals 1, and this would be y equals -1, right? So this is the sine function, right? So what we have right now is on the canvas. Do I have a different pen that would look good enough? No, okay. We'll do with it. So let me draw this. Okay, so this is our canvas right now. What I want to do is basically on the, let's start with this, right? So this is with height divided by 2, a line going from 0, 0 to width, 0 and height divided by 2 to width and height divided by 2. And what I want to do is get a sine function going, right? That would look something like this, right? It's not it's not really pretty. Hopefully you can see it. Yeah, it seems like you can. So this is what I want to do. Now I want to move the lowest points to maybe over here somewhere, right? So I want to map from, let's say we keep the same 1 as the maximum, and we up the minimum to, let's say, 10 pixels up from the line we're drawing the sine wave at, right? So we'll be drawing, basically we'll do a for loop that goes from x equals 0 to x equals the width of the canvas. And we might want to make gaps, right? So we might not want to do a sine wave perfectly, right? Where, I mean, there's no gaps in the line. We might want to do it where the for loop I, or x in this case, I'll probably use, but x is plus equals, instead of plus equal maybe 20, right? I don't necessarily want like a continuous wave function. So using this, we might get gaps in the, wouldn't look like this, but just for the example's sake, we will get gaps in between every x, right? And we will map x to between, let's say, I don't know, maybe between 0 and 20 or 0 and 10, right? So we get a couple of waves on the canvas and not just a single wave. And so what it would look like whenever we move this up, right, is we would have our line, and then it would start, let's say here, it would go like this, right? Something like that. We might want to get more waves in, but that's the principle. Now, what I want to do is, after getting that wave down, we want to, instead of drawing points, right, it's essentially, we'll draw points every iteration of the loop. So we might have a point here, 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 so on and so forth, right? Let me just draw them, right? So we might get points along this line, right? So that's the goal. But I want to update this so that it's not points, but it's basically arcs or circle cut off at that line, right? So the circle would go from pi to to 2 pi, right? So that's the arc I want to do. So we're going to have, let's say, an arc here, so on and so forth, right? I mean, I'm not great at drawing, but that's the goal. Now with the radius is going to be based on the line height, right? Based from this line. So how much height do we have from this line over here? And we'll use that as the radius of our arc. And obviously, well, not obvious, but I will be also making the radius, I'll be adding plus or minus some random value to the radius, right? So that we don't just get a sine wave made out of semicircle. It would be a little bit more boring than what we're going to do. And after that, we can add the fill value to the arcs based on our color palette. What I did in the sketch that you saw at the beginning is that I have a color palette of, let's say, of length GTH, of length maybe 10, right? I had multiple of these lines, but at different interval here, right? So I had multiple lines of sine wave, and I was saying basically that so this was another for loop to get all of the rows. I was saying basically, let's say I is the index of the row. I was saying take the color at that index for that specific row, and lerp the value of the color from here, the beginning, to the end, with the first color, the index of the row, and the next color, which would be I plus 1. So the next color that comes in our palette, right? And I was also setting some alpha value randomly to those fill values, fill color. So that's pretty much the goal. Hopefully this is understandable. I'm not the best at drawing, neither am I the best at explaining, but this is the goal that we want to achieve today. So let me get right into this. Great. Okay, great. So let me, yeah, okay, good. Let me remove everything we have. And this is done in the setup. Obviously, you can animate it. Hopefully you do. It would look probably more interesting than just the static image that we get at the end. But yeah, so this is pretty much it. We'll remove everything apart from the color palette we've chose. And yeah, I mean, we can keep the stroke and the no fill and the no stroke. I mean, this is really redundant to have no stroke. I mean, let's just remove everything. Okay, awesome. So we have a blank canvas right now. Good. So let me just so we can see my face. Awesome. Great. So let's do for loop that goes between, we'll use x as the variable that goes between 0 and the width of our canvas, right? So x is less than the width. And we'll use x++. I know I said I wouldn't use x++. Let's just use x++ at the beginning just to see if we get it right. It doesn't matter because eventually we won't be even using that value. So we want to map this x value to a specific angle to pass to the sine wave, right? So we'll use, so we'll have like a lower and upper bound, right? So we'll have const lower or lower bound, whatever you want to call it. And this, let's say a random between 0 and 100. I'm doing this, you can just put 0 here for right now, it wouldn't change anything, which I'm going to do. I mean, it's going not to be random, but it doesn't matter for this. I'm going to do this and we'll update this to be random later on. So we'll have a const upper for the upper bound. And this is basically going to be lower plus some value, lower plus some value, right? So let's say 10 for right now. And what we'll want to do is get the angle, the gradient angle, based on this, right? So we'll map our x value, which goes between 0 and the width, to our lower and upper bound. Okay, great. So we have our angle. Now we need the position, right? The result of the sine function. So const, let's call it, and this we'll normally use cos for the no, it's fine. So we'll use sine and we'll pass the angle and we'll multiply that value by, I don't know, maybe 20, right? Sure, that's fine because sine is going to return us a value between 1 and minus 1. So what's the error here? Expected comma, oh yeah, cost something, right? We can say maybe y, right? Because it's essentially going to be the y. Well, the y is going to be plus the height divided by 2, right? But I might want to put this like whenever, but it's fine. We'll use that. So we'll do a point right now, just for the moment, at x comma y plus height, if I can type, divided by 2. Awesome. And we'll use stroke 255 just so we can see it. There we go. So we have our sine function. Maybe 20 is not enough, right? Let's do 50 times 50. So there's 50 in between. So if I were to draw just a line that goes from the same line I draw on the whiteboard, it would be starting from x0, height divided by 2. So at the a line going across at the middle height of the canvas. So going to width, and it would still be height, the same height. All right. So we can now see this is the sine function. And if I were to make the upper bound a larger than 10, then 10 more than the lower, we would see more waves in here, right? So we can do that. I mean, just to get it understood better, we can see more waves in between, right? So eventually we might want to put this as a random value, right? Because we might want to get a random amount of waves on the canvas, right? So that's fine. I'm just going to set it back to maybe 20, sure, maybe 15. That's fine. 15 is good with me. Okay. So what I said on the whiteboard is that I wanted to remap from -1 to 1 to maybe something else, but that the minimum should still be the height divided by 2, right? Or 0 in this case, since we're adding the height divided by 2 afterwards. So what we'll do is we'll map the value of the result of sin, which goes between -1 and 1, to maybe 0 and 1, right? So, the other way around, because the canvas, the 0, 0 is at the top left, and going down is adding to the y, right? So it doesn't matter for the sake of the example, but it should go 1, 2, 0. Oh, yeah, my bad. It should go between 0 and -1, actually. Okay, but I don't want it to go exactly on the 0 line, right? So I might want to do something like maybe instead of 0, maybe 0.2, right? I want it minus 0.2, right? I want it a little bit off the actual, because we're going to draw a semicircle, right? Or arcs, not necessarily, well, yeah, they're going to be semicircle in this case, like half circles. But I don't want them not to have any radius, right? Because if the line goes on the other line, that means it's a radius of 0 for a semicircle that we're going to draw. So even here, maybe 0.3, right? And I want it to go to 1.5, right? Maybe. I don't know. We can do this, and we can make even this 0.5. That looks fine to me. So we're going to use this. Great. So this y is good with me. That's fine. Now what I want to do is add a little bit of randomness to this, right? So maybe we want to multiply all of this by some random amount, right? Or we could just set this value to be random between, let's say, 20 and 50, but I'm going to do a multiplier. So random between, let's say, between 1 and, let's say, 2, right? So we're going to multiply the result of the sin by this. There we go. So we can see we have points that are pretty much randomly distributed along a sine wave. Good. Maybe 0.2, maybe 2, a bit too much, maybe a bit too little. We'll see whenever we get the semicircle actually in there. Now, what I want to do, let me put the stroke weight, if I can type, there we go, to maybe 5, just so we can actually see them a little bit better. And let me change the x plus plus, like we said, to maybe x plus equal 20, something like this, right? So we get gaps in between the point, just like we said. So maybe I want more gaps, right? Because every point is going to be a semicircle. If there's too much semicircle, it's not going to be like they're all going to be overlapping each other, and we're not going to see like the actual semicircle. It's going to be pretty much like the sine wave. But it's fine. That's fine. So we're good with this, I think. Now let's change the point to be an actual semicircle, right? So it's going to be an arc that is at x, y, y plus height divided by 2. And then this will be the, is it the radius? I think it's the radius, right? So this will be the radius. So the radius should be, right, so this should not be, it should just be height divided by 2, and then the radius should be y, and then the radius for both of them should be y, right, for the width and height of the the radius on this axis and on this axis, right, on the vertical and horizontal axis, and then the angle we said from pi to 2 pi, and basically pi is 180 degree and 2 pi is 360. So we want the upper semicircle. If we wanted the lower semicircle, which you can do, it's going to be 0 to pi, right? But in this case, it's going to be pi to 2 pi. There we go. So now we have our semicircle. Maybe we don't want to fill them, only see the stroke. So we'll say no fill, just to actually see that it's working. There we go. So if I refresh a couple of times, we get different result, but close enough to what we want. Maybe 50, not enough. Maybe 100 will be better. There you go. So that, I think, looks good. I mean, it doesn't look good, but it'll eventually look good, I think. So I'll be using this, right? Maybe we want more circles per line, per sine waves that we have. So we might want lower space between the gaps. So maybe instead of 30, we do 20, we'll have more circles. We do 10, we'll have even more. And if we do 1, we'll have even more, right? I mean, there's 1 pixel in between, so it's not really, it's the same as if we were to draw just the points. Not really useful to what for what I want to do. And even 10, too much. I want like real gaps we can actually like see. Maybe even 40. Let's go with 50 for right now. Sure, that's fine. That's maybe not enough. We'll see whenever we get the colors in there. Great. So now let me comment out the line that we actually were drawing. Great. So now let's try to use our colors. Good. So we have a color value here. Well, it's a color palette, right? It's just an array of colors. And my color objects are basically looking like, for example, here. This is one color. And we basically get this array of colors. So that's the colors here, right? So config.colors is that. So what I want to do is basically, so let's first get multiple of them in multiple rows, and then we can work with the colors. So we'll have a for loop, and then I might want to say like const rows equals maybe 10, right? Maybe I want 10 rows, and I want to know the gaps between the row, like what's going to be the space between the gap. Well, what's going to be the space gap, basically. So I'll have const gap, or you can call it space, or whatever you want to call it. right? So we basically need to divide the height by the amount of rows that we have, pretty much. We might want to make some adjustment to this, but for right now, it's fine. So let I, or row, but I'll call it I, equals to 0. I is less than the amount of rows total that we want, I plus plus, great. So this whole loop is going to englobe this, this section here. There you go. So why is it not working? I'm not sure. Let's take a look. Let me zoom in. Unexpected token. Oh, there you go. Yeah, I'm missing I. There you go. Okay, but now the issue is that they're all at the same height, but I want them going spaced, right? That's the gap thing. So we'll basically, instead of drawing all of them at the height divided by 2, we'll draw all of them based on the gap size times the current row we're at, right? And we might want to add 1 to the row because otherwise they'll start at the top at 0, 0, which we don't necessarily want because we won't be seeing it. Great. But now one thing we're noticing is that all of the waves are the same, right? They're all starting at lower 0 and upper lower, which is 0 plus 15. So all starting at 0 going up to 15. So I want to add some random amount to this, right? So that they don't all start at the same time. So I'm going to say 1 is between 0 and 1, right? So now we don't see any patterns, right? I mean, we could, but technically there's no pattern. And maybe 1, 5 is a bit too, not enough, right? Never mind. This is fine. It's this I want to change. Maybe random needs to go, because if I were to just do this, I mean, it's based on the gap, so it's difficult to see, but yeah, that's fine. Maybe 100 is too much. I mean, it doesn't need to be 100, it can, but it wouldn't change much if it was like, let's say 20 and 0. Okay, that's good enough for me. Now this value, I might want to remove it for now and add it back later on just so I can see pretty much everything. Now I want to add a multiplier to the radius of the circle based on the I value. So I want the radius of the circle to be bigger for the bottom rows and smaller for the top rows. So I'll do rows minus I for the multiplier, and that's too much. So so we can multiply all of this by maybe like 0.5 or 0.1 even. It doesn't need to be that big. There you go. Oh, that's the other way around. Oh, yeah, never mind. It's supposed to be I, and I'll do like I plus 1 just because 0, it's going to give us 0. Multiplying something by 0 gives us 0. Right, so this is good. But again, maybe that's like not great. We could use a lerp function. So we could lerp between, let's say, multiplying by from 1, which would go at, let's say, 70, from 1 to 2. So the bottom row will have a radius that should be 1 time bigger than the one at the top. Well, 2 times bigger, because 1 times 1 is just 1, but 2 times 1 is 2, right? So 2 times bigger than the one at the top, and we'll use a map. Here we need to pass like a percent, so 0.1 would be 10%. So we'll just pass I, the map of I going to 0, from 0 to row, and we'll say that we want it to go between 0 and 1, right? So now is there an issue? What's the issue? Let's see. Row is not defined. Yeah, because it's rows. Makes sense. There we go. Let me refresh. There you go. And here, this is too much, I think. I want, no, too little, I think, sorry. 30. I want more waves in here. Sure, that's fine. And maybe 70 is too much. Maybe 50 is fine. Great. And we can do, since we can see at the top there is actual gaps in our semicircle, I don't want that. We can lower the amount of space between each points that we're doing for each line, right? So here, maybe 20 is too much though. 30 seems fine to me. So we'll use that. And here, this value we can always update, right? We'll do 100. Well, 1 is just way too much. Let's do like 70, like we had earlier. Not 170, 70. Okay, that's good. So we'll use that for now. So now what we can do is add the color. So we'll remove the stroke and the stroke weight, and we'll remove the no fill because we'll use the fill. We'll do no stroke instead of no fill. And now what we'll do is set the color in here for each semicircle to be, so we'll do fill that will go, that will be the color of the, in the colors array, the color of the eye. Well, I modulus the colors.length, right? So we just need an index, right? So colors, or we could just use the random function, use some random colors. We can start with that. So random in config.colors. We can do that. RGBA and spread all of this, right? So we can. What's the issue here? There shouldn't be any issues. Let me check. Requires iterable to be. Oh yeah, that makes sense. Let me make parentheses of this. What's the issue here? Oh, is it because it's an object? That would make sense actually. Let me just do color. There. Okay. So we could use random values, random colors, just to fill in the circles. That's fine, but not exactly what we want actually, right? So yeah. Let me also check this. I just want to make sure that if we remove this, it's going to be the actual sine wave. Yes. Okay, good. So let me make this a little, sorry, never mind. This a little bit more, like 70. Maybe like 30 it was at. Yeah, I think it's, maybe we could play with this one, right? That goes, that we might want it to go between 0.3. That's a little too little to maybe 3, right? Okay, that looks similar enough to what we had at the beginning, right? In terms of sizes. And I might not want it to go to 0.5, but 0.3, right? So it goes really smaller than what we want. There we go, 0.25. Sure, that's fine. Great. Maybe the ones at the top are a little small, but I'll let you do something about this. Okay, now what I want is, instead of picking a random color, right, like we're doing right now, is I want 2 colors, and I want to get the value in between those 2 colors at the specific x, right? So we'll do const c1 for color 1, which will be config.colors at index I, right, at the row we're at. But if we don't have enough colors, we'll just loop around back to the first color. So we'll do I modulus the amount of colors that we have. There we go. And then we will take the .rgba, and this is just an object. If we take a look at one specific object, it does have RGBA. And I'm using RGBA because I want the specific RG and B values. Yeah, but it's fine. You could use pretty much anything you want. I mean, I could technically use this string, but I'm fine with this. And I want C1 to be, well, it's fine. Okay, so C1, and then C2 is going to be I plus 1, right? So we want the next color that we're going to use for the next row to be the C2. There we go. And now, if I were to do, let's say just C1 for right now. So all of them on one row are going to be one color, and I need to do color and pass in this dot r, c1 dot g or g and b. So color 1 dot b rgb. There you go. So now we have our colors array or palette of color going across. This is good. Now I want not all the same color, right? That's a bit, well, I mean, it's a style, it's a different thing, but the result I want is really more or less the same, not the same, sorry, but in this, maybe I want 20. Sure, that's fine. And here, maybe 0.5 too much, maybe 1 is fine. Maybe 1.3, 1.25. There you go. Cool, that's fine. Okay, and this random map I goes rows. This could be 100 fixed. What is giving us this, right? Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out something. Angle is fine. Between -1 to 0.5 to 1.25, okay. Oh yeah, it's just because of this, right? So if I were to do like 1, and let's say 1 here, and maybe a radius of like, I don't know, maybe this could be, let's say 10, and a radius of like 10 as well. Well, 1 and here going to -1 dot 5 dot 20 -20. Yeah, it's difficult to see, but anyway, let me put it back to what we were at actually. Okay, there we go. Give me a second, I'll be right back with you. Oh, God. Okay, never mind. Sorry. Yes. So where were we? Yes. Okay. Great. So I'll leave it at that for right now. You can always update it if you want. I'll be leaving the original that we saw at the beginning of the video into the description down below if you want to play with that one. It's pretty similar to what we're doing right now. I guess there's not much difference, but feel free to play with it. Okay. So now here, right? Config the color. I said I didn't wanted one single color all the way through. I wanted like a color going from one color to the next color that we have on the next row. So what we'll do is we'll use lerp color this time, not just lerp. So lerping in between two values. So getting a value in between or at whatever percent of the between value we want. So here it'll be color c2.r, c2.g, c2.b. There you go. And now we can just pass the amount. And the amount, let's just take a random value, random, and we need a value between 0 and 1. So we'll do 0 and 1. So this would be a random value between 0 and 1. I think we could do something a little bit better, right? We could map I, which basically would be this, right? This here, this same map here. So we could call this amount and just have it as a variable. Hey, God. Okay, there. So now, it shouldn't, never mind. It shouldn't be I, it should be X, which goes between 0 and the width. 2, 0, and 1. There we go. So now we're gradually, we can see it at the bottom better, but we're starting from technically from the color of the row we're at and going up to the next color of the next, well, the color of the next row. Same here, right? So this color we're starting at is the color of that row, and the ending is the colors of the next row. So that's good. But there is one thing I want to do, which is, so this lerp color, we can close this. We can do const C, which would be the actual color. And I might want to randomly lerp to a darker color, right? So we could do lerp color again between C and color, I don't know, 0, 0, 0, random between 100 and 250. Let's say 0 and 200, and we could lerp randomly between 0 and 3, 0 and 1, right? What is it giving us? Not what we expect. Why is it giving us white? Not exactly 100%. Oh, there we go. Yeah, I'm missing the parentheses here, and I probably have one too many there. There we go. Well, it's not the same result as we had at the beginning of the sketch, but it's a different result, which I still quite like. Right? So hopefully you play with this, have fun with it. In the end, I think I'll be linking this sketch in the description down below. I think I like this one better than the original one I did. So yeah, I'll be linking this one down below in the description down below. Hopefully you do something creative with it. Let me know what you do. Let me know some thoughts you have. Maybe having some stroke color, right? Maybe the stroke could be like a solid color. Maybe you want something like color to be the stroke, right? I don't know. Maybe stroke C for color. There you go. So maybe that's more interesting for you. Maybe setting a stroke weight. I don't know. Maybe a stroke weight that goes between random value between like 1 and 3. I don't know. Maybe that's your jam. It looks good still. Right? Maybe I want to do a random value here that goes between 20 and 50. Right? So the variation between the amount of waves that we have is a bit different. Maybe we want to do a random value here as well for the gaps between the circle to maybe be like something like between, I don't know, between 10 and 40, right? Who knows? You could do so many things with this that would look better than what I'm doing, because I really don't know what I'm doing with artistic vision. So hopefully you like the sketch. Let me know down in the comments below. Yeah, thank you for watching. See you in the next video. Bye bye.